C.G. Jung wrote in Archetypes of the Collective Unconscious. He wrote, "True, whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own face. Whoever goes to himself risks a confrontation with himself. The mirror does not flatter. It faithfully shows whatever looks into it, namely, the face we never show to the world because we cover it with the persona, the mask of the actor. But the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face." Welcome to Shaw Psychology Live. Who are we? We start by looking at different ideas. And with psychology, we'll explore what the greatest thinkers said about it. I'll give my thoughts and experiences. Hopefully, chat will interact. And through the process, we'll understand what all these kind of ideas we've heard about in the past, what they're about, and let us look at ourselves too. How great this stream will become, hopefully, depends on the chat. But at the least, you'll get some information about what psychology is. What are the theories of psychology that maybe you've heard a little bit about? So welcome. Let me start with a little bit about psychology, and then I'll get to comments. People talk about psychology. They're not talking about one thing. Psychology is built on theories, ideas. So sometimes I would have been talking with a guest, and the guest will mention having gone in therapy. And I'll ask, well, what kind of therapy? And very few people answer. But depending on theory, treatment, depending on theory, will follow that theory. So it's a good thing to know. It has to do with how different people came up with these theories, thought of human behavior. And generally, types of personality theory or types of psychology fall into psychoanalytic. Definition would be psychoanalytic are characteristic ways of resolving unconscious conflicts of sexual and aggressive drives with learned ethical values or conflicts of impulses. The key here is it's based on biology, meaning drives, which in a way is pessimistic because the environment has less effect. Individually, people are affected by their instincts or drives, like thirst is a drive. Freud believed so much in the sexual drive, and he was criticized for it later, and I think correctly. Back in his day, very few people thought about theory. Largely, he is known for coming up with this idea of the unconscious that later we'll talk about. There is the existential humanistic theory of personality, talking about habitual ways of actualizing the needs and values of the true self in the face of life's constant stresses, despite the realization that one must eventually face death. Well, this is where meaning doesn't come from a church or a country. Meaning comes from within. Then there's behavioralistic. Personality is a fiction. All behavior is learned and very much controlled. So in this theory, if you're behavioralist, forget all this stuff inside. It's all about specific behavior. Lifting your left hand. Spitting. Forget that Freudian looking inside. It's all about, again, observable, relatable behavior. So if you go to a behavioralist, the behaviorist won't care that much about what you feel, but mainly observable behavior. Then there's the cognitive, which is very popular these days, called social learning, where acquired observable response repertoire that may have private cognitive components, such as need to be mastered. That's fancy, but the theory has to do with the thinking process, and therapy would be correcting miscognitions. It's very rationally based, and these are the basics. And we'll start with psychoanalytic theory, usually thought of as coming from Freud. Jung was a psychoanalysis. I have a picture of Sigmund Freud. There he is. Died of throat cancer. Always with that cigar. Welcome. We'll go to chat. And any questions you all have in chat or want to bring up, and even bringing in people on air that you may have seen, trying to relate it to our little world. And that's what I'm saying here. Shaw Psychology today, 50 miles north of Hollywood, California, talking psychology, a little different. There's Amanda Meatfoot. Welcome. I've changed up the mods. I was getting complaints about a echo chamber, but let's change it up anyway. And I didn't even really base it that much on personality, so I might like you more than somebody with a mod, or not. But let's see what happens. Change is good. So yeah, most people lost their wrench. RJ's lady saying hello. Hi everyone. There is Busam Laka, an expert of human psychology, being a police officer so long. Forget about psychology, Boosty might say. Let's hear about tushies. He loved the tushy, and Freud had all these theories that people were anal or oral. So when I think of Boosty, someone said tushy or butt or something is a fun kind of pun within his name. I don't know. Sex is the big deal with Freud. And it's now thought that he put everything, so much of the dynamics of learning behavior into sex. The sexual drive, that it didn't really represent what's going on. It's too focused on one thing. But sex is important. And we will talk about that too, but not in a cynical or crude kind of way, within the bounds of talking about psychology. There's basically, within most frameworks of psychology, two types of clients or patients. Those with neurosis, and just about all of us have a neurotic set of behaviors. And those who are psychotic, and those are the people you see walking around talking to themselves, or not being in groove with reality. And those people usually deal with psychiatrists and drugs. The neurotic people, me included, usually engage in some kind of talk therapy, psychoanalytic, existential, behavioralist, or cognitive. Different kinds of theory. And right after chat, we'll begin with, I'm taking information from a book of theories of personality. So I'll read a little bit, and then we can discuss it. I plan on trying this like 3 episodes, and we'll see what happens. Hello again, Amanda. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. He has a channel. Usually shows up, says hello, and disappears. Saying hello? Yeah, I did that. Boosie like that. Hey, there's Donna Marie. This is based around psychology. If you have any questions or even theories, we see psychology all the time here. I'll be talking about my experiences. What happens when you're 16 and you have trauma? Change. How do we change? All that kind of stuff. Where is Dana a little bit? She's always on panel when it comes to me shrink. Yeah, Dana was on maybe 2 months ago, and we always got along, and everything was cool. And she was a licensed therapist, and we were on with JK, Korean lady, and I was on with Dana was on there, and we were grew and talking psychology, and Evil Abe came on. And Evil Abe tried to work his charm, and it worked on JK, but it didn't work on this therapist. And Evil Abe objected to this kind of therapist not going along with the program or having a good time. And Evil Abe started calling Dana a little bit a bitch. And I know Abe too well to know he didn't mean it offensively, but so he's calling Dana a bitch. She's getting all freaked out, and I guess maybe I laughed a little bit, and I went in on her channel forgetting that maybe she wasn't happy with me and she didn't talk to me. So that's what happened to her. Hello, Carolyn. Nice to see you. Is this Honest Abe? I don't know, man. I've heard about you, different things. But welcome. You like psychology? I hope so. And when I finish with chat, I'll get reading about this subject. We're going to talk about psychoanalytic theory, where reality, the real creates the person. Psychoanalytic or psychodynamic theories of human nature depict human psychology as outcome of inexorable biologic forces. So I'll try to explain this if I can, if I understand it. Freud was a medical doctor. Think a neurologist. Jung was a medical doctor. Their theories, or psychoanalytic, is biologic in the sense that we strive, our struggles in our lives are directed at replying to drives. Like you get thirsty, you behave in a way, walking to the refrigerator and get water. You have a drive for relief, like you urinate. You go to the toilet and you relieve yourself. In fact, with Freud, so much of our behavior is aimed at trying to come to a homeostasis where there's a relief. But we never can get total relief from our drives. Let's say with sex, you can relieve your drive, but then the drive comes back real quick. So in psychoanalytic theory, it's biologically based, meaning that our biology drives our behavior, opposed to a humanist or behavioralist, or some aspects of cognitive that our dealings with the environment, with other people, with society, etc., drives who we are. It translates into something called the nature-nurture question, which is a major dialectic or problem in the last 200 years. Some people say that behavior, that one is born neutrally, like a blank slate, and our person has developed in our interactions with the environment, with our parents, with where we grow up, our cultures. But Freud doesn't put stress on that. Psychoanalytic stresses biology, and I'll discuss further, and then I'll come back to chat. For Freud, irrational and unconscious psychological forces were what governed behavior. The latter, in turn, largely stemmed from the interaction of certain instinctual drives and past experiences. Thus, Freud considered the individual to be a consequence of reality, that is, biologic drives plus environmental experiences. So what I said was not entirely accurate, because Freud did, according to this, take in the environment, but it was measured through the biology of a person. So there was an interaction, but the main drive was our biology. From his first model of the mind, literally a psychologically for neurologists, to his first dynamic conception of the mental terrain, Freud never tired of depicting human psychology as fundamentally a struggle of the nervous system to cope with the physical demands of the body that houses it. For the body's drives to be met, the nervous system must find a way to adapt itself to the considerations of the outside world and to the insistent demands of the inner world. And frequently, dysfunction or problems had to do with an imbalance in the way we treated our drives to them being satisfied in the environment. Like, let's say you have the drive to express anger, rage, and you shoot somebody with a gun. Well, that'd be a problem, because it's not a balanced way, even biologically. For Freud, reason and science were God. Again, that's basically saying that in their theory, religion does not have a place. Again, for Freud, reason and science were the God, and science consisted of uncovering what nature had fashioned for modern destiny. Going to chat. This is going to be kind of dry unless chat or I become comfortable with making fun of it, I guess. But there was a streak of resignation in Freud. The resignation of the supreme rationalist who accepts what he believes he cannot change. And what cannot be changed is inner and outer reality. What can be changed, and the primary target of psychoanalysis, is human illusions about reality. In other words, we fool ourselves, and with therapy, we become more honest and self-aware about what's really going on. No, he said, our science is no illusion, but an illusion it would be to suppose that what science cannot give us, we can get elsewhere. Meaning that he thinks we're driven by our drives, but they will not be satisfied by, say, religion or philosophy. I'll move on to behavioralist theory after we read the chat. Thanks for showing up. This will probably be a slow start, but as maybe chat becomes accustomed to dealing with the subject and sharing, maybe it'll be more interesting. But interesting or not, I think you'll get a basic understanding of, say, what psychoanalysis is. It's coming to grips, basically, with our biology, accepting the limitations, etc. The case upon our being is constructed by our biology or instincts. That's what drives us. But most therapies nowadays really don't adapt Freudian psychology. Times have changed. People have theorized more realistic conceptions that sex is important. Jung came along and said, but so is environment and culture and something called archetypes. And we'll get into all that. But in this first stream, we'll go over some basic theories. And again, there's no one psychology. If you do go into therapy, you need to ask the therapist what's the orientation or what kind of therapy, because that will determine what he or she does with you. There is existential humanist therapists, but most are cognitive. The humanist will basically say cure comes from the relationship between the therapist and the client. But in the existential kind of therapy, there's no specific series of techniques. Whereas with psychoanalysis, there is. Behavioralists, there is, etc. And we'll go over that, but I want to get to chat. If you're interested in psychology, indicate it by like or subscribe. I'll try this. Oh, snouts. Snouts, and we can refer to other streams or my streams. Snouts refers to kind of a funny image that has been applied to degrade because a woman was constantly depicted as having cow snouts. But I've tried to take away the power of that by, oh, the cows. That's why you bring that up. Kind of funny, huh? More cows. Back to chat if you have any comments. It's all about psychology, and I'll get to the behavioralist kind of psychology, and that's the last comment, I believe. Behavioralism, or behavioralistic theory, has to do with reality constructs the person, meaning that we can change our behavior overtly. And in this kind of theory, forget the inner psychic stuff. Behavioralist theory is based more on science, where behaviors are identified, reliability comes into it. So specifically, one behavior that might want to be changed by a client would be smoking. So you go to the behavioralist, and they're not going to care so much with who's your father, what are your problems with your mama, what's your sexuality. No, they're going to focus clearly on how to get rid of that smoking habit. And their behavioralist techniques, that's where you hear words like reinforcement, variable, incentives, etc. And I'm going to read a little bit about that right now. Much like Freud, John Brodus Watson, the founder of behavioralism, found salvation in a concept of scientific psychology as a purely objective study of what nature has given us. So objective meaning observable, reliable. The black wall is painted black. The black wall painted black will be painted black day after day after day. So you have reliability, you see. So it's more of a scientific approach. Part of the cool part of behavioralism is I read research when I studied. The question was, what out of all these theories of psychology had practical success? And behavioralism was one of them, and cognitive therapy the other. I don't know how you do measure, anyway, psychoanalytic content, because it's subjective. It's from the psyche, then conscious. How do you put a measure on that? But with behavioralism, did the person stop smoking or not, kind of thing. And cognition, did the person achieve their goal by change in the way they thought, or their feelings change? So if the person came in depressed, and through cognitive therapy, the person got less depressed. That would be a measure of success. For Watson and behavioralism, mental states, acts of introspection, or investigation of non-conscious impulses were simply not fit objects for scientific psychology. So again, if you have a behavioralist, they don't care about what happened 20 years ago. The famous opening passages of his 1930 paper show clearly the vehemence of his rejection of things mental. He wrote, "Psychology, as the behavioralist views it, is a purely objective branch of natural science. It's theoretical. Theoretical is the predictions and control of behavior. Introspection forms," and this is what he wants, this is theory, "introspection forms no essential part of its methods, nor is the scientific value of data depend upon the readiness with which they lend themselves to interpretation in terms of consciousness." It doesn't care about thinking. It cares about observed behavior. That can be, of course, drawn from the cognition of thinking. But and it's very successful depending on the goal. If you want to stop one behavior, depression is an easy one. The result determines, the outward behavior determines if it was achieved, because a sign of depression might be look of sadness. And then if the person smiles more after therapy, and you can quantitative, that would be a measure, because both can be observed, right? So it has to be observed, reliable, and objective. Objective meaning it's either black or white, right? Either I'm talking or not. Rather than subjective, am I talking in a funny way or sad way or happy way? So there's application, the affect, the way you feel. Behavioralism isn't concerned so much with the way you feel. It can change, like with depression, but it's based on what you can see reliably, observe. The behavioralist, in his efforts to get a unitary scheme of animal response, recognized no dividing line between man and brute. The same basis of theory is applied to animals as people. Because it's not that people don't have more value, but both animal and human react to reinforcement stimulus. It may be a different kind. Humanistic theory is next. Let's see if anybody in chat wants to say anything. Not. Slander. There's COVIDs. COVIDs were, I'm trying to do something a little different. I do have a background in psychology, so I'm going through the basic theories right now. We've gone through behavioralistic, psychoanalytic, and now I'm going to talk about humanistic, which most therapy nowadays are in America. Insurance companies will pay for, say, this kind of therapy over Freudian therapy. For one thing, it's a lot shorter cognitive, right? Humanistic theory. We're about halfway through. Humanistic theories emerge as a reaction to both behavioralism and Freudian. So people were not satisfied with either behavioralism or Freudian theory. Humanism is a broad term that talks about a wide variety of viewpoints, ranging from pure phenomenological to existential. Generally, I'll try to break it down in simpler terms. Generally emphasizes the concept of the self as an active agent in change. So with Freud, we were kind of imprisoned by our biology. With this humanistic kind of therapy, we can change. We're not enchained by the biology. The person is regarded as essentially good, free, and spontaneous. That's really important, because the idea is that take away the constraints, the problems that society imposes, and you have basically at core that people are good. And that's basically what I want to read today. Talk a little bit. I'll end this shortly if there's no interest. Rachella. Okay, Rachella, you can't do that. I got your text to block COVID, Sam. What's the memory of that? Maybe COVIDs did something? Tell me what COVIDs did. Because people have been blocked a lot. Oh, you're kidding. Well, I blocked a lot of people, right? So I have now unblocked for this psychology. Not that it's working. It doesn't seem to be working. I'm trying. It'd be good if people talked about their own life experience. Why? Because one benefit of this kind of stream is you have so many smart people in chat. Say on biology, that probably Becky knows more about biology than me. Biology plays into psychology. How about all the games people play here? Anyway, I'll continue on. I'll try. We're going to talk about psychoanalysis with the clinical application. Here's Sigmund Freud. We begin with a poem by Robert Frost. They cannot scare me with their empty spaces. Between stars, on stars where no human race is, I have it in me so much near home to scare myself with my own desert places. Talking about feelings within. What's going on inside us? So let me give an overview. Then I'll see if any of you want more comments, and then we'll stop. It don't look good for this stream. I'm trying. No, Freud psychologist. We don't want it. We want to hear about, who do you want to hear about? COVIDs? Oh, Rachella. See, now I'm going for the drama, but Rachella, apparently you made JoJo cry. I think I heard on JoJo's show. Freud. From that to Freud. Freud's theory is a history of one man's strength to understand the conflict between human passion and reason. It was Freud's life work to explore the convoluted ways that rationality clashes against irrational. We see that all the time, right? Like one woman may give her heart. Let me try to do this. First comes emotion. So think, emotionally, one woman or man, one woman can give her heart to a man, but rationally, it's dysfunctional. There's dissidence. If a man acts in a gorilla-like way, that's not good for the relationship. So there's not balance. Balance would be if the woman, both rationally and emotionally, loved a man, right? Like an Andy Cruz, not a gorilla. More people leave. I I have an instinctual need for more than 8 people watching. The central concept from talking about Freud is that his ideas underwent, or is, a person's wishes are not always what the person should consciously like them to be. Why? Some basic wishes for pleasure violate conscious rules of conduct. Say, on the internet, a man flashes his penis, gentle-like, 40 or 50 times. Well, he wishes to flash them, but it violates rules of conduct or society. Another thing with psychoanalytic theory, some wishes remain infantile and frozen in their intensity and primitive perverse. So that's where you have feelings from when you were a young kid, and they're supposed to go away and mature developmentally. But sometimes something that happens to you as a kid gets frozen, or too much energy or power is attached to it. It could even come out in deviant or fascistic ways. I went for that. I'm thinking of, I don't know, a behavior stuck as a kid. I can think of experiences that happened as a kid, like maybe a mother wants a boy to help her put on the stockings, and somehow the kid gets aroused. And from that, throughout his life, he gets excited by stockings. That makes sense? Or not? People saying hello. So far, this is a flop because nobody's interested in the chat. It's not your fault because you probably don't want to hear about psychology. So I'll finish with chat. Unless there's a lot of replays, but it don't look good for talking about psychology. I'll give it, I'll go 3 times. But it's up to chat. It's kind of a dry delivery. It'll be good if people want to ask me questions. You're enjoying this stream? Really? So if I went to my therapist, I need one. I don't have one. I said, I don't feel good. And he said, why don't you feel good? I say, well, nobody, I tried to do the psychology thing and nobody liked it. Well, he said, let's look at the situation. Let me look at this. And then he sees this comment from Donna Marie and he says, well, at least you're wrong. This person enjoyed it a lot. Oh, maybe I don't feel as bad. $13 in the box. That's not so good. I don't know. What kind of therapy do I like? Well, I like cognitive therapy. So many problems are based on like false cognition. We had, let's put that in family therapy point of view. People don't hear each other. So a lot of problems are miscommunication. In other words, we're not listening to each other. This happens with my wife all the time. But sometimes it's better not to listen, so you nod. But in couples therapy, which is cognitively based, I think, because psychoanalysis is done individually. Group therapy with a group, marriage and family, obviously with a. When you do a family therapy, most of the time you want the whole family there, and then sometimes you'll go one-on-one, but mostly with the family there because you observe the family and you begin to see patterns of conflict, Anyway, it's very depressing. When I had families doing therapy for 2.5 months, it wasn't fun. But what was fun? The joke and true is the most fun client is a client that doesn't need therapy. Anyway, like a 21-year-old happy student, successful, no real problems. Yeah, I don't know if I'll keep this up, but I do plan on, now we're getting in politics. Very few news conferences are important. The political junkie will watch them. But every once in a while, the stakes become historical. Today, I think it's at 6:30. Let me think. Yeah, I think the time was changed. It was originally 1 hour prior. It's going to be really important. So now we're talking politics. Psychology didn't do so well. Maybe people will come back to it. Maybe there's just nothing to. Well, that's hopeful thinking. Is it delusion? We'll find out. Anyway, President Biden is having a new conference, and this could be the whole election. He's got to show he's not semi-zombie. If he shows affect or style of behavior or lack of cognition or thinking like he did, if he shows in the news conference like he did in the debate, goodbye, Joe Biden. If Joe Biden does fairly well, it'll be hard to get rid of him. So, you all, if you're interested, you'll probably know within 5 minutes. At the debate, he had this funny stare, but he couldn't talk in a sequential, understanding, comprehensive way. He stuttered a lot. He didn't answer the question. It was like watching an older man or woman who has slowed down cognitively and has struggles. All the spin will not be able to spin with American people. In about 45 minutes, we all will see whether this president can function as a president should, coherently, to the point, comprehending. It'll be fascinating. The reporters, some will lob him easy questions. But for the conference to have any validity or belief, reporters have to be able to ask harder questions. As the time goes by, the president might tire. So even if he starts in a coherent way, watch him as he struggles to understand. He must understand the question and then respond in an effective way. Usually it's a very difficult process requiring quick cognitive skills. So I'm going to go watch. It could change his, if Biden comes off like he did in the debate, like I stated a couple of minutes ago, it's over. It depends on the extremity of the lack of cognition or ability. But my guess would be, this would be my guess. Just, I don't know, it could go either way. My guess will be he fails. My guess will be as time goes by, you're going to see a very disoriented man. If I had to bet. But we'll see if I'm wrong. I'm not talking about stuttering a little bit. I think most people get it. It's the style of communication or presentation. Does he respond quickly does he get the words in sequential order. The other day, he used the word goodest. No such word. So it could happen. My guess will be he can't perform. But that's a guess. He has performed before, and then the debate. So isn't that kind of interesting? So I'll end this. I'll see what happens on the replay. It was kind of dry, the psychology part reading. This will come to life if chat comes to life. Was there one psychology question? One? Not one? Anyway, I took away most wrenches, and I want to see if the chat gets better. It was a bit of and it was my responsibility. Not much disagreement. Not a lively chat. So it's good to change. I can always go back to giving anybody wrenches. So I needed some wrenches. So David is around a lot, and he's a reasonable person. Bosamlock, of course. Rachel, I trust. And there's 2 or 3 others. But it's not based on, I like David Folds more than Angela. Actually, I think I like Angela better. But David's okay. Got it or not? Let me go through this. And anyway, thanks, Angela. There hasn't been any interest in psychology, but so what? There's no skin in the game for me if you don't want this stream. So I do appreciate you trying. Okay, well that's politics. Let me see what Mike said. I've talked about Eric Erickson. You like Eric? That's not even his real name, but he was known for Stages of Life. Maybe I've talked about a classic cartoon where he followed 2 older couples, and that has some validity because there does seem to be stages of life, right? Even on a developmental level like Piaget or Eric Erickson talking about the functional stages of life. Didn't he carry it into older age, which other people have not done? Anyway, the videos, the little cartoon thing is the best thing I think he's done. I've removed most wrenches to shake it up, dude. Deal with it. Deal with it. Hi, Kate. I was going to give you a wrench because I talked about you so much, but I forgot. But you're listening while in the office. Well, I've completely gone off the psychology track. A very important thing politically is coming up. The press conference of Biden, President Biden. I have 12 minutes. I was going to commit to an hour. So I do like reading your comments. Psychology comments more, but even so. David Folds. Biden seems too old now. Boosty, not sharp enough to be president. I personally think it's pretty obvious. So the last stream I talked about pretend. Pretend, right? Let's pretend that Biden is not too old to be president. Well, it's one of the hardest jobs, stress in the world, right? He's not going to get better, folks. We know that. And the pretend is he's able cognitively to be president. So let's watch this news conference. Most news conferences are not watched by most people. This one seems pretty important. Okay. I should have done politics. Boosty. You can't pressure Dark Brandon. He is like Superman. Without the cape and without the cognition. I notice Mike is getting more sarcastic. The more he watches these streams. That's a psychological effect upon Mike. Making him bitter and cynical. Okay, Mike. Sarcastic. How wonderful watching streams have been for Mike. Used to be such a nice loving, optimistic, positive. Like bitter and mean, depressing. Oh, only from watching Shaw, huh? Okay. Last comment. I think I get to go. Nearly nobody over 65 should be president. Well, that's ridiculous. Didn't Reagan have a good first term? Honesty is a virtue we kind of like in presidents too. Actually, in America, yes. In Europe, no. In Europe, there's more of a division between looking at a premier president as some daddy-like figure. Americans like to refer, Lincoln was a father of the nation. Washington was a father of the nation. But it's not true for most of the world. I like to lean toward virtue. But Mike, here's another truth. The best man in terms of virtue was President Carter. That didn't work out so well, which goes back to there's things a president should do that maybe nice people would not do. You want a degree of not nice because the world is not nice. So, I don't know. You're talking about Trump, right? Talking about Trump. I think everything primarily should be judged by the results. Did the American people benefit? Even if the person doing it did it for his own personal satisfaction, did that result in the betterment of the country? So I kind of think you're wrong, dummy. Not really. Mike's very smart. Is he smart as me? Not on that one. Too much sarcasm, too much work. He's saying that we need checks and balances. And if the Republicans take the House and the Senate, oy vey. Because the government was designed with equality, checks and balances. The three branches, executive, legislative, and judicial. We should start by giving the king president absolute. So Mike is attacking what the Supreme Court has come down with. I agree. I think Republican Democrat should not want to give more power to the president. No other psychology. With 7 minutes to go, no psychology question. Howard Stern, you mean a billionaire, because a billionaire can relate to everyone else. Howard Stern said Biden looked great and is so smart. Well, he's obviously lying or delusional. No, he probably goes to those parties that maybe met Biden. I don't know. This was after the interview. Now he's looking dumb because his pal George Clooney called him out for being a feeble-minded old man. Well, he's not feeble-minded. I think these people just... Howard Stern was a guy who wanted to fit in, could not. So now he's kind of bought his way into society with being popular on the radio and money. But I don't know. It's hard to see how Howard Stern could actually ever fit in. And the Blue Bloods or people in the Hamptons, did they really accept this entertainer? I would doubt it. But then again, people are impressed by fame. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. I got 6 minutes. Can't think of another dictator. Well, he's not a dictator yet. Give him time. But it is possible he becomes a dictator. Mike, I really don't think that, because I think there are people within our system who are more independent and would not allow it. But I don't know for sure. But if you believe in the institutions and most Americans are good, it probably won't happen. Could it happen? Yeah, it could. But let's hope not. But Mike, Biden is not fit to be president. So if he gets elected, Harris is running the joint. I don't know. Is that better than Trump? But things can happen, and in 30 minutes, Biden could fall apart. Or he could rise to the occasion. My guess, at the start, maybe he looks okay, but question after question after question. And who is asking the questions? Are they going to give it all to MSNBC? Well, people watching will get that. So what questions are going to be asked? There should be hard questions. So this should be a good, interesting conference where the press asks the questions. Going to Melania, the wife of Trump, did get that prenup amended for a fourth time. Really? How do we know that? Is all that stuff public? Melania is a classy-looking lady. I don't know, Boosty. She doesn't connect with me. You can have her. Not my favorite, or even one of my least favorites. Other ones like the Bush women, both presidents were pretty good. Mike, who is Boosty, Biden is not my guy, but the Constitution and founding principles of the nation are. Can't let a dictator in day one go untethered. I don't know, Mike. For now, I'm for Trump, but let's see what happens. I could be changed, but probably not by Biden. But let's see how he looks today. Boosty, we have two different people of political persuasion, which is kind of interesting. Boosty, Mike, a lot of liberals bought firearms in 2020. They are preparing for a civil war. Well, I think that's ridiculous. Where do you live? Preparing for a civil war? Where does Boosty live? Are people thinking that? Not where I live. I'll keep this going a minute or two. Let's say 59 minutes. Thanks for showing up. Doesn't seem any interest in psychology. Maybe I'll give it a second go. Probably not. Well, let's see if anyone else wants to watch this stream later and replay. Got to keep up, Boosie, but I don't think it's the spineless liberals that MAGA should be worried about. It's the peeps in the middle, frustrated with the partisan nonsense. Well, yeah, the people don't show up. Pretty good, Mike. I agree. People in the middle, most people are, right? Most people are moderate. What about independents? But if Biden can't speak correctly and falters, what then, Mike? You're saying that anybody going up against Trump, I don't know if that'll work. So far, it don't look good for Biden. But a lot of people don't like Trump. So this is kind of an interesting election. And 30 minutes, I think Biden's going to hold a press conference. I can barely hear or hold for a call. Okay, so what? Whiner. How was my audio? This is kind of slow. Till we meet again, maybe not on psychology. Blessings, my name is Sam Hill.